Hi, welcome to my first live stream of 2021. I thought a really useful topic to cover was SEO, just because, as we all know, the last year has been quite a different year, and one thing we have seen is a huge increase in traffic, on website traffic. So it makes sense that if you've got a business and you've got a website, that actually you need it well optimized for people to be able to find it. And this is SEO. So today we're going to talk about what SEO is, we're going to talk about the Google algorithm and what we know about it, and we're going to talk about things that you can do to improve your website. So let's first of all kick off with what is SEO. So SEO stands for Search Engine Optimization, and this is very simply optimizing your website content and optimizing your website for Google to be able to rank it and for people to be able to find your content from searches that they're doing. So there's things that you need to do to your website that improve the user experience, enable Google to be able to find it and rank it, that you can do. So let's talk about the Google algorithm. Let's put this up. So now, it's important to note Google don't tell us exactly what they use to rank websites. So they don't tell us their exact algorithm. They use around about 200 different sort of indicators and factors to rank content. Now, they do tell us some of them, and then just looking at the data from work that's done on websites or on what works and what doesn't, it helps build up a picture of what Google are looking for. So it is worth noting we don't know their exact algorithm. It's also worth noting that it's constantly changing. We commonly see this with new bits of content where it will bounce up and down the ranking almost every day, where Google sort of figure out where it wants to put it. And we see small changes in their algorithm very regularly. When they do release a larger part or a large algorithm change, we do often get told about this and roughly what they're looking for. So in 2018, they indicated that page speed was going to be a large ranking factor. Sure enough, 6 months later, we saw that come into play, and websites that were quicker to load outranked those that were slower to load. So it's starting to understand what Google looks for in their algorithm. And this is a really important part to work out, and sorry to break your heart, but Google don't care about you. Yeah, your website, your content, that is not as such their interest. Google's aim is to collate all of the information that's available on the web, and then when someone searches using their search engine, and I'm pretty much going to exclusively talk about Google. I know there's other search engines, but I'm going to talk about Google. When someone has a search intent, they type something into Google, they're generally asking for an answer to a problem or an answer to a question they've got. And Google basically looks at all the content that it's got and presents what it feels is the best result for that person. And Google's job is done when someone clicks on one of those results and doesn't come back. So it's worth noting, Google's aim is actually to the searcher. They don't care about you, your website. Their aim is to, give the best result to the person searching. So it's really important that we understand what their aim is, because it helps us define what content we're going to put out there, and understand what does work and what doesn't. So I'm going to actually, at the end, I'm going to cover a few things that make little difference to your SEO, but yet we still hear from sort of historic sort of ways of running websites. So yeah, the Google algorithm is basically there to define what content really suits being presented for someone searching for a question. I hope that makes sense. I'm not actually monitoring the live comments, but do throw questions in the comments today if either whether you're watching this live or watching this at a later date, and I will try and answer. So let's have a look at the first tip. It leads on nicely actually to what their algorithm is. So user search intent. So what is it the person's trying to find, or what is it the person's trying to see when they type something into Google. And you then need to define, does my content, meet that need? If someone's searching for something specific, whatever it is, does your content meet that need? And this is really important. And there's a couple of easy ways to do this. Look at the search terms that you want to rank for. Type them into Google, see who's already ranking. And look at the type of content that Google feels is the right answer for that. And that's a really simple tip of just having a look at, okay, all my competitors are, creating that sort of content. Maybe I need to look at a similar sort of way, because that's clearly how Google is identifying it. So think about what the person needs to see and create content for them. Talk less about yourself, talk less about your business, and think about, how can I solve someone's problem? This is probably the overarching sort of SEO tip of just creating good content that people want to see. Excuse me. Right. Tip number 1, content related to the search intent. And whatever that is, whatever business you're in, really have a clear thought of, how am I helping? How am I solving that problem? Create content for them. So, number 2, core web vitals. It sounds a bit techie, but I'm going to break this down. So core web vitals is basically Google's way at looking at, do you have a good website? And by a good website, I mean one that loads fast, is really easy to use, is on a secure server, because Google's well aware of people's user experience. I'm sure you've probably in the past given up going on a website. You click on the, you've searched something on Google, you click it, it's taking ages to load, you can't be bothered, you come back and you click on another result. So you've got to have an optimized website for current standards. So works well on mobile, and we'll talk about mobile SEO in a moment, but works well on a mobile, is really quick to load, and like I say, is on a secure SSL server. You often see the little padlock. Most websites now have that. There's not really an excuse not to, but you still see some running without an SSL certificate, and that will impact on your ranking. I made a point there that people do click on a website and come back off, and this is a really important part, because even if you are ranking number 1, number 2, whatever it is on Google, you've got to make sure you keep that spot. And one easy way to lose that spot, you might produce some great content and Google are like, wow, this looks really good for that search intent, let's stick it at number 1. But if people click on it, land on the site, and then come back to Google and click one of the other links before disappearing, Google will very quickly realise, okay, we presented that result, but it obviously didn't meet the user's search intent, because they had to come back and then they had to go off to another website. So then clearly they're going to go, okay, that second website they went to is clearly a better result, and they're going to move them up the ranking. So you can see how websites move up and down. You've basically got to be a better result than your competitors, because as you start to get those clicks, even if you're further down the ranking, as you start to get those clicks, if people land on your site, get the answer to their problem, then you're going to move up the ranking. And eventually, you probably see this quite a lot now, that certainly when asking a question, Google will pull out the snippet and it will give you the answer without you even needing to go to the website. So for certain websites which are producing factual information, that is really, really helpful that those Google snippets exist. So, bring myself up. So, expertise, authority, and trust. Okay, it stands for EAT. And in SEO, digital marketing, we love an acronym, EAT. So what this basically means is, are you trusted? So you might produce a great bit of content, which is, in your mind, you're the expert, you've created this content on a great website, but actually, should people trust you? And should Google trust you? So, we're in a period of time where we're worried about fake news and things like that. And it's very easy to create a bit of fake news on a good quality website. Hope Google's going to rank it and people are going to find it. But should people trust you? And the way Google knows whether you're a trustworthy brand, and this is looking at your brand as a whole, do you have Google reviews? And if you do, Google actually like you to respond to them. They feel that's a good customer relationship type situation. So the more reviews you have and the more you interact, the more they're going to feel your brand is trusted. Do you have good quality backlinks from other respected sources? So back in the day, a big SEO tactic was to build loads of sort of spammy links back to your website, because links are basically a high five of this person's really good, I recommend them. And in the past you could build loads of spammy backlinks and sure enough you'd creep up the ranking. But Google was very quick to notice actually these links don't mean anything. We're looking for links that are from another authority, another trusted website. So that's a way to show that you're trusted by maybe people within your industry or trade magazines, etc. Looking at things like your social media channels, are you posting? Do you interact with people? Do you have reviews on other platforms as well as Google? So building up that brand trust does make a difference to your SEO. Google need to trust that you are the best result. And when it starts to come down to it, anyone can create good content. I don't see any reason why you can't. But, if you and a competitor have created good content and it's very similar and is both really useful, and actually both your websites are pretty good and are quick to load, etc., you've got to think, okay, where does the deciding factor come in? And it might purely be down to how many Google reviews, which one is trusted slightly more. So, you're not going to be able to rank rubbish content, is probably fair to say. Have good quality content, but then you start to look at these other areas and build those up. So, I'll bring myself back now. Right, now for one of my sort of final tips. So, all SEO is mobile. Yeah, it is the mobile version of your website that is used for ranking. So there's not many desktop-only sites left. I almost think sort of responsive web design isn't really a selling point for an agency such as ours. It should be as default, but you really need to look at, was my website designed mobile first? Yeah, this isn't a case of taking your desktop version and just making it switch around so it works on a mobile. Does it work really well on mobile? Because I mentioned the whole, do people get frustrated with your website and then come back off it? You might have some great content, but if the site doesn't work on mobile very well, Google won't rank it as highly. It's user experience. Going back to the algorithm, Google want to present the best quality result with a great user experience to their users. Again, they don't care about you. Their responsibility is to their customers, the people searching. So the reason we all use Google so much is because it produces great results. We trust that the content that it shows us is the best answer. So you do need to listen to what Google are saying, and that is, all SEO is mobile, and they've made that clear. That's something they've told us. So I'm going to come on to sort of my final points. So they're the main tips. Actually, I will just let's come back off that. Sorry. Right, we'll just cover those again. So user search intent. Yeah, look at what people are searching and does your content meet that need? And I mean here, be really specific. So as an example, we rank, I haven't checked recently, but certainly in the top couple for something like Bexhill Web Design and Hastings Web Design. But the reason we rank in Hastings and Bexhill is actually we have two separate pages. One, our main one, which is about Hastings. We also have a page about Bexhill because it's relevant to Bexhill. So it's creating relevant content that meets the search intent. In the same way, if I search for pizza delivery in Hastings, I don't want to be shown a website in Eastbourne. Yeah. In the same way, if I search for black men's shoes, I don't want to see a website showing me red shoes. It's user search intent. So make sure your content is relevant. We looked at Core Web Vitals, which is having a good website, that it's quick, it's fast, and there's tools out there, GT Metrics and Pingdom, and actually Google have their own tool for basically testing your website, how well it works. Now, just very quickly on that, don't get too beaten up on the results. It will bring up errors. You know, you've got to have a really good site if you're getting really, really high scores, you know, an A grade. There will be bits because we all use other tools on our website, whether it's a, you know, a social feed or something that's maybe not connected directly to the website, which will bring your score down. But it is worth looking at to see if things like images are optimized and ideas or bits like that on your website. And yeah, we looked at EAT as well. So making sure your brand as a whole is trusted. Very simply, your brand as a whole is trusted. And finally, mobile. So making sure your website works really well. So I now want to cover a couple of bits things that make a little difference because I'm trying to make myself full screen. There's a couple of bits that make a little difference, and one thing I hear quite often from clients and just talking to people is, "Oh, have my keywords been put on my website?" Now, I've explained how the algorithm works, so that saying almost becomes a little bit redundant. You know, what do you mean? Have my keywords been put on the website? You don't just rank from putting some keywords on your website. You can't just say to Google, "Oh, I want to rank for this keyword, this keyword, this keyword, and this keyword," and ta-da, there it is. Your homepage is up at number 1. It's not going to happen. Okay, there used to be, you know, spammy keyword stuff, and you'd see it at the bottom of a website, you know, all these different keywords just above the footer, you know, thinking, you know, that Google was going to see those and go, "Oh, cool, we're going to rank them." You know, there's no way that on the homepage of the MJS Media website, I could write, you know, architect in Hastings and expect Google to rank me if someone searched for architect in Hastings, because there's no other relevant content relating to that, and it's a single keyword. So when people say, "Have you put my keywords?" Yeah, that's redundant. It's, you know, is there good quality content related to your keywords, related to your key phrases? So it is worth writing down, these are the keywords and key phrases I want to rank for, but then you need to look at creating content around those. It's not simply a case of just putting them in. And one final one, which, you know, I'm going to talk about and maybe slightly contradict myself in a way, but meta descriptions. Okay, Google have told us the meta description on a page. If you don't know what this is, I'll put a link maybe in the comments. But it's basically when you search for something, you see that little bit of a description about what the website's about. You can set those on the pages of your, well, on the individual pages. And a lot of people spend a lot of time creating really good meta descriptions. And firstly, Google have told us that's not a ranking factor. So again, you see these meta descriptions that are really keyword heavy and have basically just been stuffed with all the keywords that they want to rank for. That doesn't work because they're not a ranking factor. Secondly, almost 70% of meta descriptions are actually rewritten by Google. They don't actually present the ones that you've written. So they will change them to meet, you know, what someone's searching for, because actually it might be that they've searched relating to a sentence halfway down a 1,000-word blog, and they will put that in the meta description to allow people to trust to click through to it. So 70% of the time they're rewritten. Now, I said that Google will rewrite it to encourage someone to click on it, and that's the point. Meta descriptions do improve click-through rate, and for that 30% of the time, I'd say it's worth having a good meta description. But my point is, when you look at your overall SEO strategy, don't get too caught up on, you know, individual meta descriptions for every single page. You know, it is worth writing a good meta description on a good piece of content that you've written related to a keyword or a key phrase. But, you know, if it's your contact page or some of the other pages, don't worry too much about it. They don't have to be individual. They're not a Google ranking factor. And, you know, if your time is limited, that isn't where I devote my time. So hopefully, how long have we been going? 20 odd minutes. So hopefully that gives you a bit of an insight into what SEO is, what Google looks for. And I think that's probably just the most important part. There is a little bit of, you know, I suppose magic involved in SEO because Google don't tell us exactly what they're looking for. But it's just understanding what Google want to do, and that's present the best quality result to someone searching. And when you start to get into that mentality, you can see why you should be creating regular, good quality content, working on your website and optimizing it, ensuring you're building up your online reputation, increasing your sort of brand online. Once you've done all of those, you can then understand why Google are going to start ranking you. There are always bizarre ones where you look, you think, why are they ranking so well? Their website isn't as good as mine or whatever. It's just one of those things. Okay, there's not always a clear explanation because Google don't tell us the exact thing that they're looking for. But more often than not, it is just good quality content. One part on that, new websites are hard to rank straight away, just because it's a brand new domain. The content's only just been picked up by Google. And you're probably not trusted as a brand yet. So if you're having a brand new website built, just bear in mind that, for that first 6 months, maybe 12 months, you're not going to jump straight up in the ranking. It doesn't say it doesn't happen, because it can do, but generally, as a rule, I'd always say to people, you can't expect to be ranking right at the top within the first couple of months of having a brand new website built with a new domain. If you've already got an existing domain name that's maybe 3, 4, 5 years old and you're having a new website built, that's a positive, because it could be replacing a website that's slow, clunky to use, etc. And you've got a much better core web vitals, as I mentioned earlier, much better website, and that will help improve your SEO very, very quickly. But yeah, just a little bit of an insight into SEO. Like I say, if you've got any questions, throw them in the comments. I'll be more than happy to sort of answer them. Or if you want a one-to-one meeting, so we can book a Zoom or a Teams, I can do a little review of your website and we can go from there. But until then, thank you very much for joining me on this live video. I hope you've learned something. Yeah, thanks for watching.